Welcome to Random Acts of Conversation with me, Josh Reid Jones, where I attempt to have interesting and important conversations with people and with you, the audience of this little project. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which I live and work, and most of these conversations take place, and acknowledge that we are on unceded land that always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge all First Nations peoples from across the continent we now know as Australia. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this next conversation. It's no surprise to anybody, really, because I can't pretend like you're just some guest who's just on there. This is my very dear friend Rob Mills joining me today.
I've lived here, so yeah.
Yeah, he's lived here. We literally just got back from a walk, and we were supposed to be at the Grand Prix today, but we've got the dates wrong by a full week.
It's next week. It's next week. I like looking out your window though and seeing my old apartment. That's where I used to live.
The great thing is it's you get to see your old apartment and you get to experience what it would be like to have cataracts, because my windows are filthy at the moment after the storm that came through the other day.
It's pretty gross, mate. You need to clean that up. Yeah.
We've made a grave error. So this is a bit ad hoc, but we have been meaning to do this for about 12 months. Yeah. So let's go.
But now we've got so much to talk about.
We've got so many things. So many things have happened.
So many things have happened. Look, it's a list of things.
It's a big list.
The book's come out.
You've moved away. You've come back.
Yeah, I've moved to Sydney. I've moved back to Melbourne for work, for my work, for Georgie's work.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I like being back here. And yeah, the book's come out.
Got the book out. Got a new show.
Yeah, this is my second musical since.
You were the king of Moomba.
I was the king of Moomba. I was a runner-up in the Birdman Rally, which is pretty good.
Did you come second?
Nah, I just runner-up. I didn't win, so I was in
the runners-up. Yeah, very good.
I was amongst them. At one stage, I was winning.
And today you learned that tea is hot.
It's very hot, but delicious. Very nice.
Hot but delicious.
Thanks, mate.
Well, fantastic 12 months for you.
Yeah.
You're doing very, very well.
You too.
And we've got heaps to talk about.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
Well, it's a bit of a weird one because I don't listen to all your interviews. I'm going to be honest. I listen to them sometimes, but I don't listen to all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm familiar with the kinds of headlines that pop up around stuff to do with you.
Yeah.
And what sort of you're a bit sick of hearing sometimes as well.
So we're going to talk all about them today.
I'm going to really hammer on those because I don't want to annoy you. I think something that is important, and we've talked about this before, is the kind of the lack of modelling. I don't know if diversity and masculinity is the right way to talk about it, but there's a lot of things that we see where people are saying this sucks and this person sucks, and kind of you get a lot of airtime if you suck. Like you can say horrible things, you can be a terrible person, and you can get picked up and put into the zeitgeist for saying terrible things, which
it's how I survived. That's how my career is. That's how I've survived.
But it's a weird setup, and so the internet is proliferated with examples of what not to do, as opposed to examples of what to do.
So what you're trying to say is I'm the guy who does what you meant to do?
No, not necessarily. Okay. I'm just saying that we have an opportunity to talk about and the sort of things that I think you're pointing to in your book. Which, hang on, let's do this.
Very good.
Putting on a show, Rob Mills.
Oh, it's a bit glary. Hang on.
There we go. We've got it.
That's good.
Putting on a show, Rob Mills.
Yeah.
So you touch on this sort of stuff about manhood.
Yeah.
Not your manhood. Well, your manhood does get
it gets a mention.
A run in it.
Nothing is really left out of the book. I wanted to try and share some stories. So I think the best way of storytelling, or the best way of connecting with people, is creating a safe space. So in order to create the safe space, you share something of your own in order to let people know that it's okay to share their stuff.
Yeah.
That's how we truly connect with through storytelling and through vulnerability and through a deeper connection that way. It was Lee Sales' book, Any Ordinary Day, that really... Got that?
Hang on, I can pull that out.
Your headphones will not reach.
I'll read.
There you go. Another classic book. It's a great book.
Another banger.
It's another really good book. So she interviewed all these people who've gone through traumatic experiences, and what I loved most about it was Lee's, obviously her interviewing style is amazing, but she's super inquisitive. And as a reader, you're learning along with Lee. So she's learning and reflecting on her own life. And I was like, I really like that style. So that's what I wanted to do with my book, is interview some people who know what it is to be an Aussie male, or trying to work out what that sort of bloke looks like, this modern day Aussie bloke looks like, who are also very inquisitive people, who have also studied for, for hundreds of hours, years, decades, some like Pat McGorry, about how to be better people. And then I can learn from that. And as I said, the reader can learn along with me. And that was the sort of the journey for me. And it was awesome. I had such a great experience interviewing all these incredible people.
Yeah, and it comes through. I think that reading the book, you get the sense that you're talking to people with. I can confirm personally, it's a very honest curiosity. Like, it's not a gimmick. It's not something that you're just like, oh, we think this would be a good idea to do. Like,
no, I'm just curious about it.
You're like, as soon as the book was published, like, oh, there's all these other people that I can keep talking to, and you carried on, and you continue to carry on, and you did beforehand as well. And I think it's really great. And I asked you this question at the book launch, and you had no answer for it, and so that was good. We'll put you on the spot again about pulling together what like the great man looks like. What are the things that go into a great man, and how would you build a great man? What would that look like? What ingredients would go into a really
I've had a bit more time to reflect on it now. I think there's a certain amount of stoicism that we still need in a good man, but there's also a willingness to be vulnerable and to be fragile at the times that are appropriate. Mm-hmm. There's a kindness that needs to in every person. I think kindness, stoicism, and dare I say masculine. And we're trying to redefine what that actually means. Yeah. If you look up in the dictionary, I talk about this in the book. In the book, it just says showing qualities of a man. Okay. Which makes no real sense. It doesn't really say what that means. Like, what does it mean to be a man? So that's what we kind of discover throughout the book. But yeah, I would say stoicism, a sense of good masculine traits, and kindness, and a depth in showing your own vulnerability. That's the way, as I said, that's the way we connect. There's
probably never been publicly like more of a discussion about what a man is. We're based in Melbourne. Just the weekend past, there was like a bit of a, I don't know, protest, idiots out the front of Parliament House, and
protesters protesting protesters.
Yeah, it was inception of protests, and I'm not even 100% sure that everyone there knows what they're protesting, but certainly trans rights and trans people get thrown under the bus constantly about this sort of stuff, and they're being vilified by, well, I think small numbers of people, but very noisy small numbers of people.
Ignorant people who don't know. They're either fearful of the unknown, or just generally what happens, or I don't know why you are so upset about someone else's choices and how they feel, who they are. I will never understand why you're so angry about this.
Which makes me...
Not you, but...
That's right. Obviously, I'm furious. I guess the thing that needs to be pulled apart a little bit more, perhaps, is what can be a broad church of masculinity, in the sense that it goes from... Whether you consider it a spectrum, or just once you're in the room, you are that, and just how that manifests is different. And... We're both great Hawthorn supporters, for instance. And I'll just whack your mic. But you can be a Hawthorn supporter in a million different ways.
Yeah.
And so there's people who never go to a game. There's people who say they're Hawks supporters, but like it's just because their parents were, and they haven't watched a game in 20 years.
Paint their face.
Yeah. And then there's
hold a pom pom.
Then there's the pom pom, head to toe, Hawks every game, away games, the whole deal. Cheer squad Hawks. We're all Hawks supporters, but the way that people express that looks very differently. And I don't know if that's a helpful analogy for trans people, sort of saying, hey, we're part of this. We're part of this. I don't identify as masculine or non-binary, or as feminine, or as a woman, or as a man, or however you want to identify. If you say you are, you kind of are.
Yeah.
But then we get a lot of examples of the worst possible iterations, which are exclusive. They're mean, they're looking to put people down. And so when you've talked to all these people in the process of your book, what are the sort of softer, more inclusive parts of the masculinity that you think we should emphasize, alongside the being able to shoulder the weight of the world, which is something that everyone probably needs a little bit of skill to do. Or
Tommy Harkin talked about this, about blokes using the word, I'm a rock. I'm the rock in the relationship. I'm the rock in the family. And he goes, that's good. It shows strength. But he goes, but also rocks are immovable. Immovable, sorry. So they're not very malleable. So you need some of that rock thing, but you also need the best qualities, I would say, is something that's a bit fluid. And not saying sexuality, you're
molten rock.
Yeah, molten rock, maybe.
Yeah,
possibly. But sometimes you need to be cool and not so hot-headed as well. But I think it's just knowing. I spoke to a woman the other day. She said it's knowing the appropriate emotion for the appropriate time, and I really liked that. I really like that. She works at the hospital over at Monash, and I was asking her what she thought it meant. She said, yeah, showing the appropriate emotion at the appropriate time. I was like, that's a really great way of explaining it. Look, there's many things, and there are many different shapes and sizes of what it is to be an Aussie man. And the thing that I found was we are not the stereotypes that we used to be, and thank God we're not. Because I think there's a sort of sense of this super ultra blokiness, which I still feel like is very much apparent in this country. And also it's still fun to be around and to be a part of as well. That's the other thing. I never want to shame blokes in being blokes. Like there's a bit of that going around at the moment of like, oh, blokes, they just talk nonsense. They talk about chicks and cars and stuff. You're like, yeah, some blokes do, but also some blokes also, when they're with their mates, they also talk about other deeper things. Probably not enough for my liking, but it is those moments that they do connect with one another, and they do find that sense of community and belonging in having those chats. But it's not to say that that's all they talk about. Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Gus Wallen talks about in the book when he does these gotcha for life chats, he's like, we have so much banter, great banter as blokes, more so, and I'm generalizing here, more so than probably women do with their mates. Please don't come at me, I am absolutely generalizing. But he said, if we just get the real chat to like 5%, and for me, I would rather it be like 15, 20, 30% of real chat, and then the other stuff is banter. But I think if you just have real chat all the time, 100% real chat, you're just exhausted. You just get compassion fatigue for like listening to people's problems. There's definitely a balance that you have to strike.
I think people miss the bit, and it's also, we've got siblings also. We both have siblings. So we've been through the process of understanding that in the banter and in the, I guess, hanging shit on each other, which is a bit of it's a bloke's thing, you know.
Negging?
We do a bit of negging, we hang a bit of shit. Part of that is, it is actually an expression of trust. And I think that what gets missed sometimes if you're just looking externally at a group of people, and you hear this sometimes, like, do you guys even like each other? Like the way that you guys rag on each other all day long. And
you love him.
Well, I love him. What are you talking about?
Love him like a brother.
But if someone who you didn't trust came in and said the same thing, you'd be like, "Oi, you've really overstepped the mark." And it's actually an expression of deep trust that you're able to find that limit. And it's almost the more you trust someone, the closer you are, the more intense the neg. No one can say anything as horrible to you as your siblings and still hang around and you're best friends.
The stuff that you say to your parents, the stuff that you say to your parents.
Well, not me,
sorry. The stuff that you can say to your parents or your brothers and sisters and stuff is some hateful stuff at times. But you know that's within the family. You've created the bond. You've created the trust enough for you to. There's more love than there is hate, basically.
Yeah, and it does keep you in line. That's another thing. I know that in reading about lots of small group living, where hanging shit on each other is like a mechanism to make sure people don't get too big for their boots, because you have to work together so well that you can't let anyone in an environment where everyone shares everything and you do everything together, that apart from kicking you out, there's not much else you can do apart from pull their head in with a bit of, oh yeah, you're good at hunting, but oh, you're terrible at this basket weaving. What a loser, you know?
Bit of shaming.
Bit of shaming. Yeah, it's literally you shame people into, and shame
into order
can be, you shame them into order, but shaming people who you don't know,
no,
horrible. Shaming people on the internet, gross behaviour. But amongst your very close friends and doing those things, it does keep you level. I mean, you need it because otherwise...
you get some big for your boots,
King of Moomba walking around.
just just trying to fit through doorways. But there's a very Aussie thing though that we do, and maybe that's our passed down from our English roots and Irish roots, and sort of that sort of British roots of like the negging, the sort of cutting people down, the tall poppy syndrome. We've got that quite a lot in Australia. There is a real fine balance that I think we're finding, and I think I started finding that in my sort of late 20s, early 30s of like, we hate other people succeeding, or we don't believe in ourselves because we don't want to get too big for our boots or whatever. But there has to be a balance there. There has to come a time where you realize that you are good enough for the thing. And the negging that's coming from other people is always just jest. Or if it's not jest, it is probably from someone that you don't actually know, that doesn't know who you are.
Who shouldn't be a good friend.
Exactly, yeah.
And there seems to be, in an environment where more people are commenting on other people's things, that makes it very difficult. And where...
We're super accessible.
Yeah, you could just say, that's terrible. Well, you don't know the context in which this is being delivered, and private and public life is blurred a little bit more, and people are saying things or doing things, putting them on the internet. People go, that's toxic, or that's terrible, or whatever. And we're probably losing some of that nuance in...
Oh, mate, what nuance? There is no. That's the key word of our generation is where is the nuance gone? My dad sometimes, and parents will get upset if they read something in the paper or someone said, or they've seen something online. I said, Dad, do I know this person? And they're like, I don't know. Do you? I go, no, I don't know them. Do they know me? And he's like, no. I was like, then they don't know, then it doesn't matter. Like, if they don't know me as a person, then they know that, like, they don't know who I really am and what I stand for. So I don't really care what they think. It's trying to find your own sort of sense of validation within yourself is so much better than hearing stuff from outside and going, oh, they're saying things about me. Like, so who cares? Who cares what someone else who doesn't know who I am as a person? Yeah. If it rings true, like, well, that's probably something I should work on. But like, if it doesn't really ring true, then who cares?
The mechanism that I've always worked on, and the hard truth is, if you are someone who lets people tell you how to feel or how you are, you can't limit that to only the good things. So
it's like reading the reviews.
It doesn't matter. If you allow someone to tell you you're great, you can't just allow the great stuff in. You're like, the negative stuff comes in too.
Yeah.
So the thing that I have always done is to have a little buffer in the middle there, where it means it goes into this kind of little zone where you go, is this someone who knows what they're talking about? Are they someone who I respect? Are they coming at this
an expert?
Yeah. and if they say something, then maybe I'll let it in. Either way. But otherwise, a complete sort of layperson stranger who just walks past you on the street and one day goes, oh, you're doing this really well, and you go, thanks very much. It's not going to change how I feel about myself, because it can't. Because in the same token, if someone walks past and goes, you're eating those noodles like an idiot, I'm like, that was weird. I'm not going to I eat noodles like an idiot now and carry that around with me forever.
It's such a strange reference that you picked up noodles, but I was like, yeah, I get it.
I ate noodles yesterday. It was front of mind. But people want to only let the good stuff in, and they let strangers and they let Instagram posts tell them you're enough.
How they should feel.
It's just it's a nothing. And outside in an environment now that's where we've got ChatGPT that will be able to just generate fake conversations on the internet and do things. You'll be able to hop on and you won't even know if you're talking to a person or a computer.
But I heard this thing the other day about blokes who are just terrible at chat.
Oh,
just are using it to pick up.
Oh, that's right. They're picking people up with the GPT.
Imagine you actually meet them in real life and they can't speak. You're like,
well, real talk. I'm going to let everyone into a group chat for a second. I'm going to make everything anonymous, but Rob and I are both in this chat, where someone else in the chat shared the dirty talk that was ChatGPT generated, and was like, "This is the setup is he was talking to someone on a dating app, and they were aware they were having the chat. It was right when ChatGPT first came out, and the chat was, let's see how ChatGPT goes with the dirty chat, and then they put it in, and it's giving it the I'm taking off your pants right now. Let's go pretty good. It was, to be fair, not terrible chat. That's pretty good.
You're very excited. So you did take off your pants.
So obviously I was reading the chat that had been in the group and I was getting excited. And then we have a separate DM where I get him to send me more of those so I could just in little bedtime stories.
Josh is now in love with a robot.
Guys, I'm marrying a robot. I hope everyone's excited. But I think that all of that stuff, all of this extra technology just means that we just have to come back to being people. Yeah. The only way to know you're not talking to a robot is to talk in person. The only way to know you're not being catfished is to meet people in person.
Nobody wants to do that though. Why are we so scared about meeting people though? Why has this happened? How have we got to a society where it's so much easier to chat with someone instead of, is it the fear of the rejection? Is it the fear of the immediate confrontation? What if I don't like this person? What if I have to break their heart? Or what if I have to break up with them in person? It's horrific, right? For some people, it's.
I mean, for everyone, that's
anxiety.
Things,
yeah, some people can't even break up with hairdressers or personal trainers, let alone a person But to the point where you can't even say what you need to say on a first date. I'm a massive fan of the coffee and a walk for a first date. I did a bunch of that before I met my fiance, and it was the best way because takes about half an hour, right, for a walk and a coffee.
Yeah.
Sometimes 20 minutes if you really want to get it down.
Depends how complicated your coffee order is. You got a mocha, oat, vanilla, caramel, chino. Oh God, we're waiting a minute for this.
It's delicious. But once that sort of coffee is done, you're like, oh, I know if this is the kind of person that I want to speak to again, or if that was it, that was it.
I think that sort of brings up the point that I wanted to cover with you as well in the shared experiences and the broadening of what could go into the repertoire of building good relationships.
Yeah.
Men between men, men between women, people between people. And if you could speak to, because it's something I know you've thought of and you talk about in your book, I guess it's the finding of those activities and how do we curate those moments? How do we build space for other people to have them? So our partners and our other friends to do these things without being weird about it. And how does alcohol sort of feature in what is traditionally and what binding a social agent culturally around for us?
It's really strange. I talk about alcohol throughout the book, my own sort of relationship with alcohol, and not that I've ever had a bad relationship with alcohol, but I also just really wanted to know. Throughout the book, I talk about alcohol, my relationship with alcohol, and I suppose Australians' relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
Not that I can speak on behalf of everyone,
No.
but as an Aussie bloke, I could talk about it. And it is the binding agent. It is the thing that is the social conduit that allows us to liquor up a little bit or to lose our inhibitions in order to have these sometimes hard conversations. Sometimes it become a fight with your partner. Sometimes you'll just say some truth bombs with your mates. I've known many friends, and I'm sure everyone does, and I've done it myself, have for some reason got so drunk that I've said all the things that I probably just needed to say, that I have been holding on to for months on end or years on end. So my idea is to try and find a way where that doesn't happen, because a lot of time you forget that you've even had the chat the next day. My brother's guilty of that, saying, I don't remember really what I said last night. I went, You told me
your deepest, darkest, Panda.
You told me some deepest, darkest, beautiful things. It was wonderful. We had a really shared a moment.
I feel sad that you don't remember this lovely thing you said to me now.
So there are ways, and there are as I said before, like tinkering with cars for some people. Sometimes it's working in a workshop. I know my dad's got a workshop down in his retirement home that blokes get around. Sometimes it's on the golf course or wherever it is. I love a bushwalk because there's nothing. There's just the nothingness, and there's nature, and there's something simple, or even it's just a walk out the front here where you live along the Esplanade, somewhere that you can see nature, feel nature, is always a good way. And as I said, with a coffee is so much better. But maybe it is just at the pub with a mate watching the footy, or who knows what it is. As long as it's something or with someone that you know, that you trust, that you can share this stuff. And if there are any blokes out there that are watching this, share something first. If you share something first, then you're creating the safe space. That's the best place. Like, I think for a lot of guys, they're like, I want to bring this up, or I want to ask my mate a question, or I want to know how they are. Sometimes the best is just to ask the question, how are you? Actually, no, really, how are you? Like, I noticed that things have been happening with you lately, or you've noticed a change in their behavior. If that doesn't come naturally, share something of your own in order for that person to share something of their own as well. I think that's the best way to do it.
I think to create that space too, you have to be conscious of how you talk about things around those serious chats. Because if I was
you
like...
can't be like, just talking about the footy at quarter time and then be like, oh, so anyway, how's everything?
Or even if it was just, if I was like, any premature ejaculation, losers, biggest losers you've ever seen. Imagine that worst, most embarrassing thing. And then, how'd you go last night? Oh, good, yeah. No, I was really good. Like, I've cut off that whole opportunity to just be honest because I've gone on about how terrible it is to do X, Y, Z. And I think people need to be conscious of how they speak about things, leaving the door open. It's something that I notice a lot working with LGBTIQ plus kids in particular and teenagers and their parents. And you ask their parents, say, okay, so you guys love your kids? And they go, yeah. And they say, well, ostensibly you would want them to talk to you if something was wrong. And they go, yeah. And that's great. But every time you're at the dinner table saying gays don't play footy and your footy playing gay son who hasn't told you he's gay yet is sitting there going, you want them to tell you what's going on, but it's because of the way you've talked about this for the 10 years
in the lead up
to it that they can't. And they don't doubt that you love them, but they doubt that you'll understand that,
or that
they're doing this thing.
Or that they'll be disappointed or whatever it is, which is ridiculous.
Or just feel awkward and it's weird. And when people feel awkward, they sometimes get defensive and they sometimes say mean things.
I think that's why it's super important, I think, to call that stuff out as an ally. I think it's super important to call out that was casual racism or casual kind of just discrimination, right? Just call it out. Just like just choose a better word. Don't say that's gay. Just choose a better word for that. Like I know what you mean. It's not that thing, but like just I call it a few people, not in a bad way, but just like create a safer space for be a better ally. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
It's one of those things where in a group as well, you can take care of some of those by leaving the door open. By just you don't have to tell people off necessarily, but just being but saying like someone says, oh, imagine premature ejaculating. Like, mate, I don't have to imagine it. Like, so you're sitting there feeling awkward. Why are you looking at me all the time? Yeah, well, because it's front of mind again for no reason. But I'm just thinking of something that feels awkward, that maybe people feel weird about, and potentially when you're a young adult and you're finding your vocabulary around these things, that you go, oh God, everyone's doing this everyone else is killing it. No, they're not, mate. They're absolutely not. And anyone who's talking like they are is lying. But it takes a while before people are like, guys, you're not going to believe what happened last night.
That's why I think I tried to talk about in the book. I talk about my experiences.
Premature ejaculation.
Yeah, a lot.
It's about 3 chapters, which is surprising for something that happens so quickly.
It's definitely not the book. I talk about sexual fluidity throughout the book in order to, and not create some sort of controversial post for the Daily Mail or whatever, but because I want to normalize the topic. I was talking to someone about this on a podcast the other day about when you're a kid, your parents quite often, and you yourself, are like trying out different sports. You're trying out little aths and basketball, football, cricket, hockey, whatever it is. You're trying tennis, you're trying all the different things. But when you want to try out different people, it's like, oh, what? What do you mean you're trying out different? Like,
what do you mean? What's going on with that?
It's surely it's the same thing.
Chocolate, vanilla, rainbow. That's it. Don't go eating this pistachio, you weirdo.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Rainbow. What a flavour.
Rainbow, not a flavour, by the way.
What about when we found out that it was caramel?
It's just caramel.
What? All this time?
It was a simpler time when that was breaking news.
I was nearly 40 when I found out. It was horrific.
But yeah, trying things out is important, and
normalizing it, having
the vulnerability to try things out and be terrible at it and get it wrong. I think those things are made easier in an environment where you have trust. And one of the challenges I see in the public conversation about what people need to do all the time and blah blah blah, and how you need to talk to someone if you think they're upset and all this sort of stuff. First of all, like, we underplay the importance of trust all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just walk up to a stranger who looks upset and be like, tell me all your deepest, darkest. It's actually weird. And they don't have to tell you that. Like, that's very strange behaviour.
We both do big chats around September, around Are You OK Day?
Of course.
And throughout the year. And it's one of the things that I always preface is, do you know the person? Like, it is good to check in on your friends and work colleagues and stuff, but have you built the trust in order to have a deeper conversation? Are you the person, like, even if you have noticed a change in their behavior, are you the right person for that? If not, find the person, find their friend, find their mother, parent, brother, sister, family member who you think is better equipped or better suited to have the conversation, you have to have built the trust with the person. You can't walk out and go, I've noticed things are a bit down.
Hello, Susan. Susan's going, what?
What's your name?
What are you talking to me for? Well, Susan, you looked sad today, and I thought I'll pull up a chair and you can tell me what's going on in your life.
Build the relationship.
Build a relationship and understand that there are gradients of relationship that aren't rankings. It's a depth thing. It's not someone's better than someone else. But if I bumped into someone in the lift and they were crying and I said, how you going? I said, oh, I'm having a bit of rough. I'm like, you all right? And they go, yeah. And they're probably not because they're crying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to press them on it.
You don't know them.
I don't know them. I go, okay, well, hopefully you're all right and, have a lovely day. And, let them get out of the lift and hopefully there's someone there for them because they are literally a complete stranger. If my mother, Julie Jones, gives me the old, no, I'm fine, well, I'll press her to get her to tell me. Yeah. Now, I very rarely need to press her because she tells me everything all the time.
The next sentence.
Mostly I put the kettle on because we're in for the long chat. But I can press mum. If she says, no, I'm fine, for the day you can keep pressing her because you're very, very close.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about the importance of that closeness. And so the thing that gets missed in the conversation around men having these chats, I think sometimes, is not, oh, so-and-so, Pete won't open up to me or Pete doesn't talk about his feelings.
Yeah.
It's asking Pete if he's got someone that he can talk about this with. Checking to make, not just checking that someone's okay, but checking that they have somebody. And if they have a somebody, or you know them well enough to know that they have a somebody, to your point before where you can maybe flick a text to Pete's brother and go, I don't know, Pete seems a bit off today, maybe you want to just press him on what's going on. That's also okay.
Oh,
it's
100%.
Not just making sure that you're the person in front of the person at the time they're having a bad day, but making sure they have someone. And I don't think that's a question many people check in with people and ask about.
Mate, that was the thing. I'm going to get goosebumps here. This is the frisson, so I know we're on the right topic here. I stopped talking to some firefighters in Melbourne, and it was a full light bulb moment. They have this incredible peer-to-peer program. I actually went in to talk to them about
being good lovers.
About being good lovers, and it ended up being a chat about their mental health.
Rob
space.
was wondering about trying out firemen, and he thought, "Who's the best lover of this station?"
No, I wanted to know if they because there's always calendars and firemen and stuff. So I was like, I wonder what they think of themselves as being good lovers. And the group that was there was super diverse. There was an Afghani guy, there was Italian, Irish, Greek, all these different backgrounds that all Aussies now, but it was an incredible kind of group of people. Anyway, we got the topic got onto mental health. Their big boss came out and talked about this peer-to-peer program. So they have old blokes who used to be firefighters who now basically their peer-to-peer support officer who have done some units in psychology and but know exactly what the job entails and know what the person is going through. And if just say you're the brother of, you're the husband or wife of the firefighter, you notice a difference. You can send them a text to this peer-to-peer agent, and then they're like, "Hey mate, I've just heard you not having a good time. Do you want to come and have a chat?" I just think that is mind-blowing. I'm like, how is this not the system that we have in place for everyone, for every workplace, having people who have already done the thing, trying to understand, everyone's gone through something, but have someone specifically who has actually been a fire person. I just think it's the most wonderful thing. I'm like, this should be looked at on a national scale.
I mean, it is looked at. It's literally the last step of the 12-step process too, for every person who goes through AA or NA. The last thing is, the thing is that they say makes it sticky. They say you can do all 11 and it will. The chances of failure are still exponential until you have a buddy, a mentor, a sponsor. Yeah. And that lived experience into support sort of role, it gives people someone to lean on with a sort of shared context. But it also gives you a purpose as a person as well. And you get this avenue to contribution that is unique to your experience. And that is really important. And it's not an internet thing. This isn't a write about all the things and just blast it out to the world. You have to cultivate, again, you start with a bit of trust and you do these things. And I think that again is something that we don't put much nuance into, to bring up nuance again. The two ways I feel like you can have an impact on someone quickly. One is they have the trust in you, so they listen to you because we've got the trust. But the other thing is to be someone who really knows what you're talking about and to be recognised by that person as someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yes, 100%.
So if I'm a junior footballer and mum says good game and I go, well, to be fair, mum, you don't know what you're talking about, but I appreciate the sentiment and you're proud of me all the time and whatever.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, but it's not going to make me feel like a good footballer. Or the guy who's been watching me from under 10s up to under 16s goes, mate, you really come along and you're killing it. And I go, well, this guy who's been around a long time, I respect him, I trust him. He's not the kind of guy that would say that. Yeah. That makes a big difference. So there's that trust bit. Or someone can come in quickly and have an impact. So Luke Hodge comes and watches me play footy.
Yeah, good. Hive mind. I was thinking Luke Hodge.
Luke Hodge comes in and he goes, geez, you go all right. And I go, I'm going all right. I've never met him. I haven't met him. I haven't talked to him. He's seen one game. My head got bigger, if it's even possible. I'm now in the triple XL hat. But he had that opportunity only in that domain. He can't tell me I've written a good essay. No. I mean, maybe Luke Hodge is a literary genius, but I don't know. But people forget that you can't just swat in and go, oh, you are awesome, and have the same effect as someone who's got a lot of trust or that is sort of looked at as being, well, I guess, an expert or someone who understands. And that's where this sponsorship also has that double effect.
Yeah, it's having that. I think it's a mentor, and the importance of having a mentor in your life. Have
you had a mentor? Have you been a mentee? Or a protege?
Along the journey, the kids who are in Young Talent Time, I keep in contact with just to touch base to see how they're going. When I'm teaching the
Young Talent Time.
Young Talent Time. I was a host of Young Talent Time.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. Good Night Australia. That was my sign off that I got.
Good Night Australia. You tried for that.
I got that.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So those kids and the kids when I'm doing workshops, I always say if there's anything ever to reach out to me, and I'm always happy to have a chat. But I think for a lot of blokes, it's hard to say those things, to say that they need help or to admit that they need help, even if it's just asking certain questions because they feel like they're less than, because they don't want the help. They want to be able to say that they worked it out. But no great leader or no great performer has ever been able to do it on their own. No one ever. The other thing I found is a good psych, whether it's a psychologist, a psychotherapist, or a
not the psycho.
Probably not them, but like a good psychotherapist or psychiatrist, whatever it is, whatever the thing. It could
someone
be,
to speak to.
It could be a rabbi. It could be a priest. Whatever the thing that works for you in your ideology. Find that person that can instill an empowerment, or it could be an acting coach, a singing teacher. It could be just the lady next door. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be simple as that. Someone that you get to share your problems with, or that you can listen to their wisdom, I suppose. It's a weird thing that I don't know where it came from or why we stopped this, because I'm pretty sure throughout generations there was always an elder in the group. You know, there was always someone that you looked up to, or we sort of maybe just pushed them on. Now that even the boomers have got so much wisdom, but they're sort of just shunned as being, old property owners. There is who have ruined the market.
I mean, there is a wisdom of some things, but there's also wisdom born of a context that's very different to now as well.
Correct,
so they're going to miss some stuff, but there's definitely things in there that you can don't dismiss all elder knowledge.
Yeah, but find your person is what I'm trying to say.
It's something I've noticed from in your psychology sessions, because I just creep and watch them I don't creep and watch them from the back end. But in the chats afterwards and stuff, is that your conversations, they often lead to you almost doing something. It's not. You don't go to these sessions to chat with your psych and then be like, I've been terrible, tell me I'm okay. I've been a terrible person, tell me I'm a good person so that I can get on with my life. You've got the kind of relationship where they go, no, you haven't been good. That you should feel terrible. You've been terrible. Yeah. And what you need to do now is do X, Y, Z. And I feel like you've got a very action-based, action-focused kind of relationship with your counsellor, and also with your mental health, and there's always this kind of forward momentum type situation. And do you think that there is a bit of I've been terrible, tell me I'm good going on in the world, instead of I've been terrible and someone going, you should feel terrible. You've been terrible. And here's how you can not be terrible.
I think that's why I like my psych so much. It's like someone who knows you, and it's just like, if you've been a terrible person, what your innermost thoughts are. You just don't know quite how to. They're not clear. There's no clarity. So I think a good psych will just help you find that clarity and then find ways to action better actions or a better life for yourself. They see the inner child in you. They see that inner passion. They find best ways to empower yourself. Paul's excellent at that. I think he's done such a great job.
Shout out Paul. He's a lovely guy. We love Paul.
Love Paul. He does such a great job at finding that for people, and also helping you ponder your own questions, which I think is great. But yeah, I think people are scared. I think sometimes of going to psychs because I know friends that have lied to their psychs.
Oh yeah, people try and win. They try and win the sessions. They lie. They make up stories. Yeah. They try and beat their psychiatrist or psychologist.
You're basically paying your psych to lie to them. It's like, oh, don't do that. Just the best thing about a good session is you can just say all the things and feel whatever horrible in the moment, or it's not to judge yourself from those actions, but it's just to learn from it and how you can be better. But yeah, I think people are scared to share those things or to hear those innermost thoughts out loud for the first time. If you are scared to do it, write it out first. Just do a full writing session
and throw it away.
And then throw it away. But then at least you've got it out somewhere.
Yeah.
But kind of like a hairdresser or a personal trainer, there is one for you. You might not like the first psych that you get put to by your doctor if you're going on a mental health plan, but there are plenty. And I know that there are heaps more now going online and doing Zooms or Skypes. I do Skype. So wherever I am, it's because we're all time poor. It's so much easier to just sit in the car or sit in the lounge room or be in my own space to have these chats.
You've got one of the great public-private life combos. You've been in and out of in the public eye a lot to not so much to a lot to not much, and obviously that whole time you've got a personal life and a private life and all your internal things going on, and then you sit down and you have to talk to someone about your deepest, darkest and the most intrusive thoughts that you've had. Sometimes I think people like to talk about the intrusive thoughts that they've had that relate to themselves, but sometimes you're wrestling with concepts that you feel like, am I being maybe a bad person for even considering this as something I'm unsure about? We've talked about this before, but the idea of not always saying everything you think publicly and having space privately to get out some of those intrusive thoughts. What do you think about the importance of being able to, I guess, say the worst things that you think,
absolutely,
without being a terrible person and without putting them into the world or onto everybody, but having that little space to mull things over and test the edges of what you think are appropriate or real or true or.
It's super important. Like Yuval, I can't say his last name.
Noah Harari. I can also grab that book.
Thank you. Talked about it on a podcast, and I remember sending it straight to you, and I'm like, oh, that's what we do. We do that thing where. He's the guy who...
It was the other way around, but that's okay.
What's that?
I sent it to you.
Did you send it to me? Look, I've not got a great memory, but... all right, you sent it to me, and about the fact that he's super factual based. Like, his whole book, Sapiens, is just how... is in his mind, is 100% facts, right?
Yeah.
Facts are disputable these days, so I won't say it's 100% factual, but like he's
trying to write like that.
Yeah, and as neutral as humanly possible. Even he goes, well, I still have some kind of bias because I'm a person, and humans have a bias. Anyway, he talks about the need for the safe space and how important that is. I'm like, yeah, of course it is. Like when we go for walks, you and I, or just with mates, right? We say some horrific things, and a lot of the time just for jokes and like, but it's sometimes in very bad taste, very poor taste. This is not how we feel about the world, or how it is literally just for a laugh or just for something horrific. Would I say this stuff in the public domain? Absolutely not. I even am careful of what I say sometimes in a WhatsApp chat now because of people taking things out of context, or I'm like, oh, this is a safe space for, and I don't want to say for the boys, but yeah, this was a safe space for us to have a bit of banter. This is not actually how I feel. This is a bad joke, or this was a horrific joke. I think sometimes that can be taken out of context. Well, why did you say it in the first place? Like, for a rise, for the stupidity of it, for it's not like I believe in it. I think, is it Jimmy Carr, Ricky Gervais have a great way of looking at this thing, and maybe with a public profile of being a comedian, you sort of can get away with it. But for a general person, for saying these things, like, oh, you must believe, like, No, it's still the same. We're still a human trying to just have a laugh at certain things. It's not how I actually believe. It's not how, it's not what I actually believe in. But yeah, it is important to have the safe space to have that banter and to get it wrong in front of your mates as well, always.
Yeah, without them writing you off completely.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're saying some horrific things.
Oh, well, you can pull your mates up on, like, absolutely not. That's a terrible thing.
Yeah, you can also pull them up when it is actually, oh, you're actually going too far. You believe in this stuff. We are merely joking about it.
Yeah. It's a delicate balance, but it speaks to what are some ways, and in the process of writing the book and talking to all these people, maybe it came up, but what ways do you think are effective ways to hold people accountable? People that you know. I'm not saying getting on the internet, finding someone who's tweeted something you don't like, tweeting at them, you're gross, cancel this person.
It's a waste of time.
I agree, it's a waste of time.
You're just fueling their fire and their rage and just going to make them even... It's like you're just filling up their hate bucket even further. You know what I mean? Like it's...
Yeah, just driving people away from...
Correct. You're pushing them further away from the middle where they need to be.
But there is a responsibility, and I feel there is a responsibility to make an effort to call people out or to hold people accountable. How do you think, and I have some thoughts on this too, but how do you think we might go about in right now, sort of in this constructive conversation, say, here are some ways you can go about holding people accountable for things that are a bit gross, either behaviours or things that they've said, or concerns that they're starting to lean in a direction where you think, actually, I don't think where this road leads, I don't think it leads to a good place, without having to write off people you disagree with on some things.
How well do you get along with a person who's cut you off? How well does that work out when you yell at them or they yell at you? How well does that...
Obviously excellent.
That conflict works out really well, right?
No, never works out.
It never works out. So in front of lots of people, never a good idea. I would always pull someone aside to a one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
But first of all, I'd work out, do I know this person well enough in order to do so?
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up someone in the post office one day who was yelling at the teller, calmly, like...
Was it me?
It wasn't you. No, someone yelled... This is in Perth a few years ago. And I remember just going, is no one saying anything? This man is yelling at this lady. Excuse me, sir. And I just said, do you think yelling at this poor lady is actually helping the situation? Are you getting what you need from the post office? Are you getting... Well, I'm not. I go, well, how is yelling going to help here? She's merely trying to tell you that she can't help you today. Is there another way instead of yelling at this lady? Who are you? I go, it's not important who I am.
Who am I? First of all, I'm Robert Millsy Mills. No. Yeah.
But
Top 5 idol contestant.
But calmly, always come at something from a curious and inquisitive place. Never come up from a place of, I know better than you. Always come up from a place, why do you feel this way? Mm-hmm. Like, and how can I help in this? A lot of the time when people are saying things that you disagree with, it sometimes comes just from an ignorant place. No one wants to be told that they're ignorant. So help educate them.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that you hear of stories where people just didn't know all of the information and then they learn more information, like, oh, I had no idea. I didn't realize that was offensive to people. I didn't realize that was, I didn't realize that was a thing to not say. So I think better education, kindness, just be nice, Josh, I think is a very good way of doing it. Yeah. And not in front of people, I think is the best way to do it. What were you going to say?
Well, it's funny you say they're not in front of people, because I have a very vivid memory. I was a very young captain of a footy team, senior footy side, and one of the guys in the team, he was like the team hard man. Shout out Dan, and he was also my boss as well. One of the reasons I stayed at the club, I was his apprentice carpenter, and Dan is got hands like Christmas hams and his big hard head, maybe bigger than mine, big head, big strong tough guy, and we'd lost this game, and I felt like I really put it out there, but I'd been very frustrated, and we were coming off, and I just was giving the team a full serve on the way off. I think we lost a close game, or we were up and we shit the bed or whatever, and I was like just letting them have it, and I had a shitty day, and afterwards he grabbed me, physically grabbed me. Don't you ever do that? You do that again, and I will knock you out. Like if you are mad at everyone, you take someone aside, you talk to them, like what he was doing to me,
Yeah.
pull me to the side and just,
Yeah.
and he said, if you do that again, I will make sure you never do it a third time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And even in that pause, I thought, if I was in the team filing off and little yappy old mate was giving it to him, I also would have felt the same. I said, go get stuffed. We're all knackered. We've all tried.
Yeah.
No one wants to lose a game of footy. And so that really hammered home the don't do it in the crowd sort of thing. But I think there's a couple of reasons to sort of stand up. And one of them is to change the mind of the person that you're speaking with, which is objectively the hardest thing to do. Very difficult to do.
You're like you're
A
probably
bazillion.
One in a bazillion.
If it's in the moment, almost impossible.
Impossible.
The other thing is to just let people who are on the other end of something gross know that they're not on their own. And so I've done that sort of thing, like the post office. On the bus, someone's being gross, and you're just like, listen, that's enough. And it's not because I think they're going to walk off and change their mind, but it's just to let that poor person sitting down know you're not on your own. Just so you know, there's people around that have got an eyeball on it, and we know it's okay. But something that I think is important is I've been around people saying some pretty horrible stuff, and I've been around people saying stuff I don't agree with, but I don't know if I could say it was objectively horrible. It's something, maybe views that lots of people share that I don't agree with. And one of the tests that I've done is if I don't have a relationship with this person where I can bring it up with them another time, I'm zero chance of changing their mind.
Oh, zero. In
In the moment, very difficult. But if I know this person well enough to know, I'll see him tomorrow when we're not in the middle of this thing, and I'll be like, hey man, listen, I'm wondering about X, Y, Z, or you said this thing and I don't know. And maybe I've done a bit of work to go, it's on me now to go and find some things, maybe contrary to what they've said, or
lean into what they...
Just go and work out how they think that. Yeah. And hang on, all right, you've said X, Y, Z, and I'm just going to go check on that. And then I'm going to come back and go, okay, so you've read a headline and the actual article says this, or someone in the room was someone that would directly be affected. And I just want you to know that, like, there was someone there who that would have really upset. Whether you believe it or not, some of the things, they don't have to be right or wrong. But if you don't have the kind of relationship where you're going to get them later on, then it's very, very difficult to be the person who's going to yell at them to change their mind.
We've all been at that dinner party.
Oh, we've all been at that dinner party. You go, I've sat next to this person and I've got to deal with it.
But I think there's what you're saying before about finding something in common. Find whatever that Venn diagram crossover is for you and that person.
Yeah.
You are far more likely to have more. You have got more in common than you do not in common.
Yeah.
This is the thing that whenever there's these shouting matches of online about different topics and subjects, you're like, yeah, but you've got far more in common. Even I'll use the COVID debate, that you've got far more in common than you do. Everyone wants the same outcome, right? They want their family and themselves to be healthy. Right? They're just coming at it from two different ways.
Tread carefully, mate.
I am very
no. You tread.
To understand where they're both coming from.
Yeah.
But that's core to their fundamental belief system, right? Mm-hmm. They just are going about it a different way, and there is how do you try and tell someone that they're Anyway, I don't want to open that can of worms now, but like you have far more in common than you do not in common.
Yes, absolutely.
Find the common ground.
And another belief that is useful is that people can be mostly good and still have thoughts or opinions you don't agree with.
Oh, most of the time. That's
Correct.
one of my...
There's no one that 100% agrees with you on anything.
Yeah.
So the fact that someone says something that you don't agree with, I mean, okay, it doesn't mean that not everyone's fixed in their opinions either way, but also to change minds or change understandings, it takes about as much time. Well, it takes about as much time as it probably took to get it. And if you've got a hard-earned opinion or a not hard-earned opinion, but one you've just carried around for 20 years, well, it might take a while to undo it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that people need patience to deal with those things, and that can be difficult. In expanding your Venn diagram, and back to sort of the way men can be, our Venn diagrams, ours sitting here right now, there's a lot of crossover. And some that maybe people, beer, footy, combat sports, the same area that we grew up in, same footy club, music, performing arts, these kinds of things too, things that maybe some people don't think is necessarily so compatible. I know you often comment that people are like, oh, you like footy and musical theatre. Yeah.
That's right. I absolutely do. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. So
that's why I love Melbourne so much. You go see a footy match during the day at the MCG, walk up the road, go see a show.
Go see a show.
Fantastic.
It's got all the things.
It's got all the
Eat
things.
something. Eat some noodles.
Yeah.
Someone can walk past and comment on how terribly you're eating the noodles.
Also, what I love about theatre. It's the only job in the world where at the end of the shift, everyone goes, very good.
Oh, excellent.
Win or lose. There's no we win every night.
Oh, there is lose. It's rare, but you really lose. Just crickets in the audience. You think, oh, we've really cooked that.
Yeah, I'm stuffed a line. Sorry, team.
You have to do very poorly.
Yeah.
I don't get any applause for my job ever.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you very much.
There
Appreciate
we
that.
go. There we go.
Appreciate that.
The crossovers.
The crossovers. So the importance in finding and maintaining things that become those soft edges for the overline. I like to talk about the soft edges where people can bump into each other. Because again, and we're now in that age slot, we're down to our last few strings of ham on our hamstrings. Most of the guys that we play footy with have retired from footy now because...
footy was the thing.
It was the thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're like, footy's just for buff heads. You just go to the club. You're just looking for an excuse to get out of the house, leave everyone and do these things.
No, it's community. It's connection.
It's community. It's connection. It's
belonging.
It's a reason to see each other. How important is it to maintain things that you do that give you that chance to spend time with people, whether it is kicking a footy or surfing or going to the gym or playing music or doing your daggy dad band, for want of a better term.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
I think it's super important. I think if we would all know if you're from Melbourne, you would know being locked down in your house alone, especially for the people who were actually alone, didn't have a partner or a housemate or whatever. How hard that was on your being. We are social creatures as humans. It's so important. And for blokes, as you're saying about the footy club or whatever club that you're a part of, after that sort of finishes, you sort of can start to lose touch. But the times that you do catch up is christenings or birthdays, and it's always around alcohol and drinking and stuff. There has to be a way to maintain something. Was it table tennis or squash for some people, or they move into tennis or whatever it is? But those rituals are super important because it is a place of belonging, a place of connection. Without it, it's sad and lonely. We do get lonely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and it's a hard thing. But when we're an adult, you sometimes meet new people and you have to ask them to be your friend.
Excuse me, will you be my friend?
I've done it a few times. I did it with you. I did it with a few of my adult friends. But to say, I would like to be your friend is really awkward. But
weird.
But it works out. I mean, if they both feel the same way, like, do you guys want to have a play date?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a play date. Let's go for a walk.
Hey, grown-up play dates are the best. You can eat ice cream at 10 in the morning if you want. You can go wherever you want. You can drive places.
You can drive yourself.
Go to the movies. You can do whatever.
But I think it's having, once again, it's being vulnerable in that moment of asking a friend or asking a potential new friend if they want to be your friend or to do something. I read this thing years ago about if you don't make the time for yourself, someone will fill it for you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what book it is, but it's one of those books.
It's a book. You pull out another one? Should I pull out another? It's in there somewhere.
It's definitely on one of your shelves. But yeah, so if you do want to make time for yourself or for friendships, you have to do it. No one's going to do it for you because they'll fill the time with their stuff.
And also make time if you have a partner. Allow that time. It's not a terrible thing to allow that time for your partner. Man, woman, man, whatever the situation is, that people should have independent lives with independent things going on, independent hobbies.
100%.
Make time for it. Part of also getting that, I don't want to say permission, it feels weird, but that being given that space is also making sure that you create an environment where that space is possible.
Yep.
Those people who are like, I'm going to go to the footy club, but never do anything at home, the worst kind of blokes, giving all of us the terrible name, never clean, never cook, I'm going to the footy club for the weekend. They're the ones that make it difficult for people to do all the things like, can I go to the footy club? Like, because you're just trying to escape the family or whatever. Be someone who creates an environment where it's possible to make that space, and then if you're in someone's life, like allow that space for like hobbies or friendships that deliver different things to what you deliver.
Oh, you can't get everything from your partner.
No, impossible.
That's definitely one thing I've learnt with relationships I've had in the past, but definitely with this with my current fiance.
Shout out, Georgie.
Shout out. Is you can't get everything from your one person. Even Georgie says, but I'm everything. I'm all things. I'm like, you are all things, but also not all the things that I need.
Yeah.
And it's important to have that independence. It's super important for them to have theirs, for you to have yours. And also to not even ask about it. We'll set boundaries and talk about what you actually need. Because if you don't, and it's just like assumed from both sides, you're going to have different assumptions.
Yeah.
And there's going to be way too much tension that's going to blow up at some stage.
Indulge those things that might seem a bit silly, but are actually great. Like the bang.
Oh, the bang. I love the bang.
Love the bang.
It's the Bang Football Club, for those people who don't know what it is. It's a bunch of blokes that get together on a Sunday, and I try and get down as much as I possibly can. And it's so good. It's just a couple of hours of circle work, kicking the footy, having a beer at the end.
So for people who don't know, it's a bunch of blokes in their mid-30s onwards, basically,
60s, 70s,
all the way up to the top end.
Yeah.
And circle work is literally just blokes running around in a literal circle, kicking a football around in a circle all together.
No opposition.
That's what that is. You can't lose. You can't win. You can kind of win.
No, we're undefeated every week.
But
there's one in Sydney. There's one in Melbourne. I think Dobbo was telling me, my mate Rodney Dobson was telling me, there's one in Perth as well that he's been doing while he's over there.
Oh, very good.
I just think it's the best. It's the best way for blokes to, as I said, some people meditate, some people do yoga, and they find their way to their they're at oneness or whatever it is. For me and for a lot of blokes, it is the nothingness of football, of running around doing that circle work, because you don't think about home or life or anything. You're just thinking about see the ball, get ball, handball, kick ball, mark ball. It's literally the thing that they talk about in any meditation app. It's like from this moment to this moment. That's all it is.
And on paper, that could seem like a frivolous thing to do, but it's such a wonderful and
it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. And I think we should lean more into giving people more opportunities to do those things, which means more amenity in communities to do it, more time. Hopefully, people aren't struggling with their bills, and there's some stability in the rest of their life, so they've got the space to do that. But ultimately, something that I believe in very strongly is people with people in real life, humans together with humans as often as possible.
Yeah,
you don't need 10,000 followers or whatever as much as you need one or two very close friends that you can lean on and be very open and honest and vulnerable with. And that vulnerability looks different for different people. Sometimes vulnerability is just telling people what you'd like to happen in the world. It's not always telling people sad stuff. It can be very vulnerable to say, I want to do this, I want to achieve this. It's not always, I feel sad about X, Y, Z, or opening up about the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Can I chat? So last year, the year before, I think it was, I made a pact with my psych, because at times I was only calling my psych when I was feeling sad or needed to vent or needed some clarity or whatever. And then I went, what the hell are you doing? So I set it up. So the first week of every month, I have a Skype with Paul, but whether it's good or bad, but when it's good, all right, let's talk about what's good, why it's good. And that's such a great way of actually recalibrate or just calibrating when things are good. Let's keep doing more of that, so you don't have to just constantly talk about the things that are bad. You can actually talk about the things that are good. It's great. Yeah. It's great to have that person that you can talk about that stuff with.
100%. So getting people on board with better friendships, deeper friendships, deeper relationships, creating environments where you allow the people around you to do that.
But that's where you have better connection anyway.
100%.
And that's when you connect more deeply with your mates. You learn more about who they are as people. But yeah, it's not just time that connects you and the experiences that you've had, but it's actually proper, real thoughts and feelings that you are actually connecting with. It's the empathy that goes with it.
And just saying the worst things that pop into your head sometimes. Just say, oh, you're a terrible person too. That's great. You have those intrusive thoughts. Excellent. Okay. Well, it means you're there on those intrusive thoughts.
I definitely have more bloke mates that have those horrible thoughts, which makes me think that we have more horrible thoughts, or women are just more scared to have those chats. I don't know. That's just in my reference. I don't actually know. Everyone's thinking horrible things, probably.
We're all having these moments. Right. I think it's helpful to be able to get them out so they don't steam away. Certainly when you're angry, I think it's great to get it out, not at the person you're angry with.
Oh, no.
I just rant and rave about... my mum's a bandit for this, where I'll be like, something terrible's happened. I've had some terrible things happen. I've been very, very angry, and I'm a very physical person just in general. And I've never been one to go and do anything physical, but you get angry like, I just want to smash something, and the mum will go, you really shouldn't smash. And I go, Mum,
I'm not going to.
When have I ever done that? I just have to say it, or else it just simmers in me. I just need to say all the things, and then I'll deal with it in the way that I, sensibly.
Metaphorically,
I want to smash something.
Yeah.
I remember growing up and being really hormonally mad and coming into my room.
The giant head.
It's a huge head, because I'd been grounded or something. And I really think, I want to smash them. And I was like, I want to smash my guitar. And I look and I'm like, I can't afford a new guitar. And I just didn't do it. I can't do it. I can't afford a new guitar. What am I doing? Like, I'll just be mad and, I should have smashed something. I'm like, I can't afford to smash anything. This is silly.
Yeah, I remember smashing the bed, smashing the pillow, just like, rage. And then crying myself to sleep.
I don't cry myself to sleep. It was a classic.
My mum would say, you feel better now, don't you? Never, do you feel better? She said, you feel better, don't you? I go, that's some trickery. I do feel better.
I don't feel a bit better. You've tricked me.
You said you definitely feel better. I'm like, I do feel better. Damn you. I'm going to use that on my kids.
Well, yeah, 100%. I'm just trick them all the time. Do the things.
One day.
Before we wrap up.
Yep.
And Juliet.
The musical.
One of the greats. So much fun.
Mate, it's an absolute gift of a show. I think it's come at the exact right moment that it's meant to. For me, for the world, for everyone. In a world of cancel culture, this is a show about love and about second chances and about people getting it wrong, but then allowing themselves to have a chance to get it right. And I just think, as I said, in a world of cancel culture where we're so quick to judge and so quick to shut people down, this is a show about love and inclusivity and second chances. And I am just so lucky to get to play out this character of William Shakespeare, who is in one
You may have heard of him.
Who is in one review said a glorious buffoon. I was
very good.
That
was my review.
I was like, it's a really beautiful way of looking at it, because he cops all the heat that needs to cop for mankind, basically, or personkind. And I love that. I love being able to carry that for people and turn it into a joke or keep it fun or keep it light. It's a gift, and the songs are amazing. The show is super funny. The writing is great. Everyone in it is perfectly cast. I'm having the best time of my life. He
really is. This is not a marketing spiel.
No,
I hear about it all the time. It's great. I've seen the show. It is amazing. It's so much fun. The cast is so wonderful, and even it's one of those shows where you can even look in the audience and just see. You got a drip going on?
Is this getting low?
Drip? Are you dripping? Have you not tied this up?
I feel like I'm just...
But it's one of those shows where you can also look into the audience and in the reflection of what the cast is incredibly diverse, wonderful cast, all these different people with all these different talents. And you can look into the audience and just see the beaming faces of so many people. And you hear it at the interval at the end. Just people are so excited to see themselves represented in different ways they haven't seen themselves represented on stage. And that's really nice. It's such a lovely thing in the audience to be able to look in both directions and just see so much joy and people creating so much space for people to be who they are and enjoy themselves and approach things that I would say don't always have a spirit of generosity attached to them in the public domain. But, we see people protesting and being horrible, and this is a really lovely space that also just has bangers all the way through. The music's amazing. If you love a pun, you're gonna really love it.
It's ridiculous. You're saying about diverse cast, generosity. That was the whole thing throughout the process of the rehearsals was keeping everything in a positive light and a generous space. So it's very yes and.
Assume good intent. It
always
assumes good intent. The whole production just assumes good intent the whole way.
All the negging that is throughout it has all those hallmarks of people who know each other, who have built trust, it's coming from a good place, it's coming from a good banter place, which is really funny. It's American writer, but it has a real English kind of pace to it. It's this perfect mix of American, English, and Australian culture all in this.
And accents, actually, if you go see the Australian one.
I should also say, and Swedish pop music.
Swedish pop music.
I've never thought a jukebox musical could have songs written 20 years prior that could seamlessly be woven into a storyline. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. I love it.
It's fantastic. Mate, go see Juliet. Pick yourself up a copy of Putting on a Show.
There's some good yarns in there. It's some some great people. Tyson Younger Porter, Tommy Harkin, who I mentioned. Josh is in there. Reverend Bill Cruz, he's in there. Oh, that's a great book. Yeah, that's right. Excellent book.
Tyson Younger Porter.
We love Tyson.
We love that.
Georgia Grace, a sexologist who I spoke to about gender norms in the bedroom and outside the bedroom. She was fantastic chat. All of these wonderful people who are super passionate about men's health and being better people.
For what is not a special offer for the podcast, just get into your DMs and you'll sign a copy and send it out to them. You can order them direct from Robert Mills.
Do it.
Just get on the gram, internet, and just send him a thing. And then go and see Anne Juliet because it is awesome. It's so much fun. And the Regent's a beautiful theatre.
Gorgeous. And we're here, I think, for exclusively in Melbourne for the remainder of the year, from what I've been told.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We love that. Mate, I'm super proud of you. I love you very much.
Love you,
appreciate you. Well done. Thanks for today.
Take that up, friend.
And we're going to turn the mics off now and continue with our horrendous offline chat. So thanks, brother.
Thanks, mate. Love it. Bye.